Hi everyone, Michael Sandler here, best-selling author and your host on Inspire Nation. Check out our website where we'll be posting podcasts, tips, videos, blogs, and more at inspirenationshow.com. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Hannah Papp, and her book has inspired me to become a mystical backpacker. Today she is the author of the popular blog My Secret Psychic Life and the founder and owner of an award-winning business in Washington, D.C. Hannah Papp currently heads up the Northern Virginia Mind, Body, and Spirit Group, teaching seminars and leading guided meditations under the Inspired Intuition series of events. She also works regularly with clients as a personal soul coach and continues to blog, write, and journey both as a traveler and as a mystical backpacker. Welcome to the show, Hannah. Are you ready to shine?
I am ready. Thank you so much for having me. It's a thrill to be here.
Woohoo! It is a thrill to have you here as well. It warms my heart. I'm so glad you could join us on the show. So I want to dive right into things because this is a book that the hardest part in reading your book is that you start reading it and you just want to drop the book and run away or run toward yourself, maybe I should say. So, I found this as so many people have. You talk about adventure as a vehicle for self-transformation. I'd like to dive right in with how you got into this. So first off, what was your life like before you became a mystical backpacker?
Sure. Well, I had graduated with a master's degree in history. I was living in Budapest. After I finished graduate school, I was able to get a job there in Hungary. And I was working as an advertising manager for an English language publication abroad. So I had big corporate clients, I had smaller clients. I would be regularly meeting with companies like the Four Seasons or British Airways or Hertz Rent-A-Car, and I was selling ad space in these magazines and managing other sales reps as well in that process. So really helping to launch an English language city guide publication in a new market. And I had my own apartment. I lived on this gorgeous street that is kind of like a Van Gogh painting, where it's cafes under awnings the whole way through. It's a pedestrian street that's cobblestone. My building was this gorgeous 1890s Art Nouveau style building with the cage elevator and mosaic tile. And I had one of these apartments with the parquet floors and the high ceilings and big windows. And, living in this spectacular city where I was taking the rated most beautiful tram ride in continental Europe to work every single day.
Wow.
And it went along the banks of the Danube, looking at the mountainous Buda side and beautiful little parks and gardens on the Pest side.
So what would prompt you then?
Well, that's just it. You feel really undeserving of your discontentment. But also you feel really ashamed in a sense or embarrassed by it. How can you possibly turn to your friends and relatives and say, this isn't making me happy? This isn't my calling. This isn't fulfilling the needs of my soul, whether you use that word or not, Was it like a gnawing at your gut, or did you get signs, symbols? Was there like this black raven over you or something that's telling you, hey, this isn't your path? I don't know that at that time in my life I had that language in my present consciousness. And so I don't know that I was speaking that language as I went through my day-to-day life or noticing those things. And really the book is about how that awakening occurred in my life through my journey. But what I would say is that I'm a naturally cheerful person, and so I always enjoy a good laugh or a prank or having a great time, and I was still able to have all of that. But as I moved through my days, there was a general sense of ennui or malaise where I just It just wasn't doing it for me. My work wasn't doing it for me. My relationships weren't fulfilling me. The city wasn't fulfilling me or causing me to thrive. It was really, and I think many people can relate to this, where you are surviving but not thriving. That's like a catchphrase everybody uses now. And I think that really adequately explains what I was experiencing at the time.
Was there a last straw?
Yes, there was. And I do talk a little bit about that in the book. I basically didn't have the money to go home over the Christmas holidays and see my family back in North America. Mm-hmm. And so I stayed in Budapest. And of course, most of my expat friends left to go home to visit their families. And most of my Hungarian friends were busy with their families and their close friendships. And so I really was knocking about by myself for a month. And I really poured myself into my work. And I just worked every day in the office, many times with no one else around.
Oh.
And then when my editor came back, he realized that the December issue of the guide hadn't been distributed. So distribution hadn't taken the guides and given them to all the newsstands around the city. And this was something I had promised the advertisers. So it was a big thing, but I wasn't the management for distribution. So I wasn't really in a power position to do something about it while he was gone. And when he came back, in front of everybody at the office, we were having our first tete-a-tete sort of let's, set our goals for the new year meeting. And he blamed me in front of everybody and exploded and was yelling and lost his temper. And, I can relate as a business owner because when you put your trust and faith into others to continue to earn your company an income and mm-hmm. your future your livelihood is dependent on that, I can understand the frustration. But I also felt that it was really unfair. And I remember I had come early to the office. I had brought pastries, put coffee on. So everybody felt welcome coming back after the holidays. And I felt really unappreciated. And I just very quietly, I had to be quiet because I was fighting back tears. When you have that horrible frog in your throat and your eyes are stinging. And I just gathered my things up and walked out. I went to my girlfriend's place down the street where she was working in her office. And I remember sitting there at her desk weeping. And I just thought it's like casting your pearls before swine, which is very severe to say that and perhaps unfair, but that's how I felt at the time. And that was truly my big breaking point. I thought, what, if I'm going to sacrifice aspects of my own time, my own well-being, my own happiness for others, and then not even receive gratitude or kindness or love in return, then perhaps I need to shift the priority to ensuring that I'm fulfilling my needs, showing myself kindness, my self-love.
So it was fascinating because I read that, and then Jessica and I were discussing that in the book, and I was looking at it as she's going, why could that happen? Why would she was the only one there? She's working her tail off. Why did that happen? And I'm like, it was a gift. She needed to go.
Right. That's exactly right. You look back on different events in your life, and oftentimes some of the most difficult challenges that we encounter, it's not until much time has passed that we see that was a turning point where a completely new venture is gained and a new path is taken. But at the time, it just feels terrible.
Yeah. So it felt terrible, but you take a massive step after that. Yes. What did you do, and how did you get the the oomph to do that?
Well, I had been living at that time in Eastern Europe for a couple of years, but I truly had not seen any of Western Europe. So I had managed to do little road trips and weekend trips to different parts of the former Soviet Union, shall we say. Poland, the Czech Republic, Romania, different little trips like that. But I had actually really been into art earlier in my life, especially the Impressionists. I was very much into, and still am, into architecture and loved the designs
You
of
needed to get to Paris.
Paris metro stops. I wanted to see the train stations. I really wanted to see in Barcelona Gaudi's Casa Mila, the Sagrada Familia. So I was really compelled and drawn to Western Europe. And I thought, what better opportunity than already being in Budapest? And so I bought a Eurorail ticket, I packed a backpack, and I left town. And I was very frightened. I had never traveled by myself anywhere. And I wouldn't know people in 90% of the places I was going. So for me, it was a very big step.
Wow. And so you left town. You went, I believe it was to Italy first. I think maybe you had some friends take you there.
Yeah.
And then they drop you off and you're going...
They dropped me off in the worst possible way. They dropped me off at like 10 o'clock at night, and I was going to Venice, and I had booked a room in a little pension there.
Yeah.
And they dropped me off, and it was a dark and foggy night.
Oh no. Great for a story.
And I had to take a train, one of the last trains of the night, over. And then when I got there, I had to walk all these narrow laneways and little arched bridges in the fog by myself. And the city was desolate and empty. It was like a film noir scene. And, you know, to be already afraid to be doing a big trip by yourself and then to arrive in that, I remember just my heart pounding, my hands were clammy, I was so scared. And at one point I heard footsteps behind me.
Oh, you're thinking Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper, exactly. My mother's voice going through my head, you know. So, but, you know, the next day I woke up and it was a very, very different Venice, so.
So what is it to be a mystical backpacker, and what was, I mean, the book is about it. The book is both about your journey, but is also an amazing how-to guide. So, but in a nutshell, what was the adventure that you went on from there, and then what does it mean to be a mystical backpacker?
Right. Ultimately, the outward adventure is the destinations themselves are not important. It's not important for readers to go to Italy and to Spain the way I did.
Bummer.
It's important for readers to go to the place that calls to them. But that outward journey is facilitating an inner journey. Being a mystical backpacker, it's very much like a modern day vision quest, where you are going out into the wild of the outer world, a world that is unfamiliar to you, so that you can get in touch with the core of your being and to really connect with your driving, what motivates you, what do you desire out of your life, and to really connect you with what some would call your soul's purpose, what others would call their destiny, or what others would call an opportunity for the fates to step in and orchestrate redirecting your life towards your destiny.
Let's devil's advocate this for a quick second.
Right.
I can hear people saying right now, well, why can't I just do that at home?
Right.
Or, you know, for some of our audience members, they're meditators. Why can't I just sit? Why do I have to go anywhere to do this?
Yes. I think I myself have a meditation practice, so I can completely identify with meditators who say, well, you are taking an inner journey when you meditate, and that is very true. But you are not in meditation 24/7. That's if you believe in, let's say, reincarnation, or the fact that you've come here to experience something intentionally, then you have to also believe that you're here to have a grounded experience, a root plane experience. You are here to experience this reality.
In other words, not to be in the cave the whole time.
Right, exactly. And so the most important reason, what I would say to general readership, for you to travel is because when you are within your environment itself is co-creating your identity. And so you have factors from your environment that come and gently push against you, sometimes not so gently, and then you offer resistance, okay? And sometimes you break through and send your energy out. Now, this means that a lot of our life is lived within a circumstantial paradigm. So, for example, you go and you miss your train. Now you're running for the next train, and all of the stress is caused because you know your boss is going to be upset that you're late. Okay? None of this is sourced from you. You didn't wake up to be stressed. You are not concerned about being late. You're concerned about getting in trouble for being late. You're concerned about somebody else's behavior rather than your own. You see, someone else's needs rather than your own needs. And if you imagine this, we're experiencing this all the time, in line at the post office, in line at the grocery store. We are experiencing this when we're on a dance floor and somebody gets mad at us because we bumped into them. There's a lot of our life that's lived in a responsive situation, and within the routines of the lives we live on the home front, there's a construct that co-creates our identity.
So you're saying what we want to do is peel ourselves away from this construct?
Yes, because it is a modern day interpretation of a vision quest. It is like the Aborigines walking the song lines. It is like the Amish going on Rumspringa. It's taking yourself out of the group, taking yourself out of your norm in order to have a spiritual awakening, so that you can determine what it is that the purpose of your life is for you.
I almost hesitate. I don't know if hesitate's the right word, but it makes me feel like a little discomfort might actually be necessary. Like the Jack the Ripper experience there might actually be an important part of this journey. Would you agree?
I would absolutely agree, because when we're uncomfortable, it connects us with our compassion. It connects us with humility. It connects us with empathy. The ability to connect with others is somehow in relation to feeling some levels of discomfort.
So let's go back to your trip, because I think this weaves in nicely. When you're talking about relating with others, you went on this trip with little means, without knowing anybody, without knowing where you were going to go, and I'm guessing that others, in a sense, were your guides.
Well, let me tell you a really interesting thing that happened to me midway through my trip. I was getting on a train in Rome, and I was going to go to Nice. And as the train was pulling into Nice, I had one of those inexplicable feelings of dread, like I shouldn't get off the train.
Oh, gotta listen.
But, your mind starts to race because, but you have no plan other than your plan to get off the train. Where are you going to go if you stay on the train? Where are you going to stay? What's going to happen to you? But it was so strong, and I was so in the groove of just doing what I wanted to do that I was really paying attention to this feeling of dread. So I didn't get off the train, and I stayed on. And in Barcelona, a few days later, I get assigned to this bunk in this very large hospital.
So you went all the way from Nice, you just kept on going along the coast. And
until Barcelona. So
Gotcha.
Then I got off in Barcelona, so I had to cross borders and all of this. I got off in Barcelona late at night. There's a whole adventure about that, which it's in the book. But suffice it to say, a couple days later, I end up in this very large hostel, and I'm assigned a bunk. And this hostel is so large that the rooms have, 4 bunk beds per room. So there's 8 people per room. So I'm assigned a bunk, and I sleep in it. And the next morning, there's a woman in the bunk below me, and she says, "You slept in my bunk." And I say, "No, I slept in my bunk." And she shows me, "No, this is how they're identifying the bunks." And I realized, oops, she's right. I slept in her bunk, and she ended up sleeping in mine. Later that afternoon, she sees me down in the little common area, and she says to me, "Hey, it's my birthday. Do you want to go dancing with me tonight? I'm traveling by myself." And I said, "It's my birthday, and I'm traveling by myself." It turns out she was born in New Zealand. I was born in New York. With the time difference, we're born almost at the exact same time.
Wow.
We're the same age. We're both backpacking through Europe by ourselves and ended up randomly without a plan at this particular hostel. And out of all the hundreds of beds, we end up in the same space.
Goosebumps.
And we are still really kindred spirits, dear friends to this day, across all those many miles. I mean, she lives in Wellington, and so it's just this remarkable story. There are so many parallels to our life. There had been in the past in our childhoods, but also more importantly, from that point on, we very often experienced the same types of feelings and the same responses to our life circumstances at the same time, even though our life circumstances are different. So it really is as though the universe gifted me a soulmate to go through life with, who would always understand, and I would never feel completely alone.
And that's all because you didn't stop in Nice.
That's right. That's right.
So it really is an intuitive journey. A brief aside, before we recorded today, I have some new sound equipment. I'm at Radio Shack. I'm looking at all these chords and stuff, and I'm like, this is what I need. And then I'm like, but you're supposed to get this other thing. I don't need this other thing. It doesn't make any sense. I have absolutely no need for it. I stayed there for a couple minutes, and I said, well, it's going to be Mystical Backpacker. And I picked up the chords, and I brought them home to my new microphone setup, which absolutely needed these chords, which I had no use for whatsoever.
It's amazing, isn't it?
So, and that, I think, what you're describing, when you're out of your environment, maybe the volume's turned down,
right,
more on the other junk.
Right, or the volume is turned up on your driving desires. And the reason why it's so important to travel alone is because, when you travel with someone, everything is a negotiation. You can't wake up in the morning and eat when you want to eat. You have to eat when it's convenient for everybody. You don't go to, having the freedom to wake up and say, today I feel like going to the Louvre. Today I feel like walking through gardens. And just doing what you feel like doing without having a plan in advance, without committing and promising your time away to others in advance. And most of our day-to-day lives are lived in that space of promising our time to others and committing ourselves to things that perhaps we don't actually want to do in the moment. And so what mystical backpacking affords is time, actual days and days of time where all you're doing is playing in the playground of your life.
Ooh. What makes it a mystical journey? It's not backpacking, it's not solo backpacking, it's not just go take a trip. It's something beyond that. Because
you are, in a sense, committing to a soul contract with yourself. You're saying, I honor myself. I see that there is divine and sacred within me. And to honor that divine and sacred within me, I can spend this block of time to be immersed in the experience of being me, unapologetically and without excuse.
So you're going through, in a sense, I don't know why the image of a mirror came up. I think maybe you're looking at yourself in the mirror on this journey, you're being yourself, but then also it's almost this is a strange thing to say, but you're taking a love affair with yourself.
Absolutely. You absolutely are. And if you want to look at it in different terms but similar, for people who go to church, or for people who go to yoga practice, or for people who do anything with regularity, you set the time aside each week to go do that. And when you go to yoga, you concentrate on your physicality and you concentrate on balance and posture. When you go to church, you concentrate on what you are grateful for and what you still are hoping to manifest. And you are reaching out to a greater omnipotent source. You're setting time aside to do that. But in our society, we're never taught to set time aside to be ourselves. And yet everything about the way our society is structured, especially now in the social media age, is about responding to the other.
You're right.
So it's really challenging. So when you go mystical backpacking, you're actually setting the time aside to identify with the sacred within and to honor that sacred within. And it is an inner journey that unfolds. It wasn't the first 5 minutes of being on the train that I got into the mystical flow of things. It wasn't in the first 2 days that I figured out what my destiny was and what my soul's purpose was and what I was here to do.
So in the first few days, I imagine you're going, what in the world?
The first 2 days, you're like that little monkey with your carpet dummy rocking yourself in your fear.
Oh no.
What have I done? What have I done? This is scary. And then you move out into the world and you say, I'm in Rome. I don't have time to be scared. I want to go see the Colosseum. I want to go do this. And you just enjoy yourself and be stimulated by the world around you. But, really, when you go to a museum with someone else, one of my pet peeves is going to a museum with someone who is going to tell you their reaction to everything the whole way through.
Oh no. You're never present.
Like, you're drawn to this painting and they're like, you need to come over here and look at this. Look at the brush. And you're like, oh. It's dizzying because you're actually just bearing witness to someone else's experience. So to be able to just go and experience the world firsthand, unfiltered, is really amazing, because all of a sudden, that's where you become aware that, wow, I am so drawn to ironwork. I never noticed that. Like, I'm stopping and taking pictures. I took pictures of 15 gates today. All of a sudden, you start to discover new things about yourself because you've afforded the time to do so.
On that note, it seems like one of the important things you did on your journey, that, I've journeyed a lot myself, and I never did this one piece. I talked about doing it. You did it, and I know if I travel again, not if, when. And with this book, it'll be sooner than later. Journaling.
Yes.
Seems hugely important.
One of the tools in the mystical toolbox is reflection. And the end of each chapter provides exercises for the reader that help facilitate the inner journey. And a lot of those exercises you do in your journal, as well as journaling in a traditional sense. And what's remarkable about that is it's as though you are creating a mystical portal through which you can step at any time in your future and experience insights and revelations and be reminded of poignant moments and insights and revelations. You'd think you couldn't forget a revelation, but you can, because everyday life gets in the way of keeping your focus on these bigger themes, umbrella themes in your life. When you're trying to remember to run each errand on your to-do list, you're not thinking about the meaning of your existence. You're thinking about paper towels, so. But your journey, really, your journal is that portal where you can step into it at any time. So there have been times in my life, becoming a mystical backpacker and connecting with your soul's purpose doesn't guarantee that you won't still struggle in life moving forward. In fact, I would argue that people who are completely committed to living their authentic life and taking risks and trying to step into transformation, because we're not here to be stagnant. We're here to experience transformation all the way through to the end. And if you're always transforming to some degree in some aspect of your life, there will always be struggle.
So you've got somebody listening, they're commuting, they're going into work this morning, they're a little bit dissatisfied, something doesn't feel quite right. What are you telling them to do?
Well, I'm saying, I guess the first is a call to action. Mm-hmm. Take the time to figure it out. I think we live in an age where we are experiencing a shift in consciousness. We have gone from the past several thousand years where we have always looked outside of ourselves for someone to lead us or save us. And right now, metaphysically, we're going through a transformation where society is beginning to understand and embrace, perhaps even not intentionally, this idea that we are the leaders of our own lives. We are responsible for healing ourselves. We are responsible for guiding ourselves on the right path. It's moving a little bit to the individual, but also not in a narcissistic way. I think that the individual wants to lift society up through love, through positivity, through healing. But instead of looking for charismatic leaders to affect that change for us, we're recognizing the power of the individual.
You got a lot more out of this journey than you bargained for, didn't you?
Right.
So share with us one whatever you would consider is your most altering moment of the journey, something that was a pivotal point for you.
I know I felt it at the time, but perhaps I wouldn't have claimed it at the time. Mm-hmm. But now in hindsight, I see very clearly that my journey had what I call mountaintop moments. And it's literal because I was actually at the top of the mountains. But it's really a metaphor for the journey, the interior journey that I was on, the inner journey that my soul was experiencing. Mm-hmm. The first was many weeks, maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks into my journey, I ended up on the island of Majorca, which is a Spanish island, part of the Balearic Islands in the Mediterranean. It's just south of France and east of mainland Spain. And a lot of people have heard of Ibiza, which is one of the islands west of it. And Ibiza is like the party island. That's where all the world famous DJs go to spin, and it's known for foam parties and hedonistic youth. But Majorca is this sort of quieter, larger island to the east. It's where Chopin and Georges Sand spent time trying to recuperate. He was always ill. And so that's its sort of small claim to fame in the history books, perhaps. Although I just heard a whole bunch of Spanish people screaming in protest that I said that.
Oh, no.
But Majorca is this beautiful island. And I was staying in Palma, which is the little capital city, and it's where a lot of beautiful big yachts pull in, mm-hmm. Yachts that are going from the Caribbean, where they winter, to the Mediterranean, where they summer. And it's very lifestyles of the rich and famous. Cindy Crawford, I think it's Cindy Crawford, has there's like a supermodel who has a place there. Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones have a place there. It's gorgeous, posh. And so I end up here as a backpacker.
The opposite of posh.
This is, yeah, really low budget. And I just met some people in the hostel, and they were going on a road trip to this little town that's known for making sails for ships, a sail-making town, Alaro. And just above Alaro is this mountain, and the locals go to this restaurant. It's probably popularized now, but that does roast lamb in these big traditional stone ovens and serves homemade red wine and roast potatoes with fresh rosemary. And they said, let's hike up the mountain, and then we'll eat at that restaurant, and then we'll hike to the very top where there's this medieval castle and a little chapel and a beautiful lookout.
Wow.
And so we have this spectacular meal. We hike the rest of the way up the mountain. I'm looking out, and I can just see the island spread out before me, and the sea, and I just felt such joy. It was like I was basking in golden sunshine.
I'm hearing like horns. Hallelujah.
It was like that, and I've called it, a mountaintop moment. And I also experienced a similar mountaintop moment in Austria towards the end of my journey. But it was this pivotal moment where I felt so happy that I had chosen to go on this journey for myself. I felt at the same time so confused by why I hadn't given myself permission to have this kind of experience more regularly in my life. And, that feeling of promising to move forward and do that more often. It was sacred. It was a holy moment in my life.
Wow. I think we all need those sacred moments now.
Absolutely.
We all need them. So what I'd like to know are, what are 3 takeaway pieces of advice you'd give to people, and maybe give to people to help them experience the same thing as well, or whatever they're meant to experience. It's different for each.
The first would be, there will never be a quote unquote right time to do it. You'll always feel that the time is not now, that it's something to defer. You'll always feel that you don't have enough money. You will always feel that uncomfortable. Okay, discomfort is part of that process of mystical backpacking.
So in other words, if you wait to be fully prepared, it never comes.
Yeah, it's not going to come. The second thing I would say is feel the fear, because it is a scary thing to do, to go out into the world by yourself. It is scary, especially in the world in which we live, certainly here in the West, is structured. We work from 9 to 5 or longer. We take X amount of time for a break. We catch, transportation at very specific times that it's offered. It's very structured. There are lines on the road to indicate where you go and where you don't go. There are signs that indicate where you stop or you don't stop. Everything about the world we live in is easy to navigate. Inner terrain isn't so easy to navigate, and certainly new spaces aren't so easy to navigate. So understand that you will feel fear, you will feel discomfort, but do it all anyway. Just do it anyway, because it's fun. You move through those feelings of discomfort, and you actually have mountaintop moments. You enjoy greater joys, greater experiences, lots of fun. It is an adventure. It is an odyssey. And the third thing I would say is, even though the inner journey part is extremely important, and you want to honor yourself by journaling or meditating or using some of the mystical tools that I discuss in the book, you also need to be open to experiencing others, because I believe the universe, when the universe sees that you have stepped into this odyssey, the universe will co-create magical moments for you. They will help guide those people into your life who you're meant to meet, like that woman whose bunk you slept in. And if you are open, if I would have just sat there journaling and said, no, I'm not going dancing, and who's this strange girl, like, why would I go out with her, I would have missed this beautiful gift the universe was giving me. So be open, because the part of the point of the journey is to discover those people who will help uplift you into the next phase of your life.
Wow. I think this is an important reason that if you're considering it, for anybody out there listening, they should pick up your book. It is a not a preface, a primer. It's a primer that actually it gives you a bit of the code to help you start picking these things up faster as you're out there, because on these journeys there's and I've taken several quests myself, and like a 5,000 mile solo 40-day bike ride by myself.
Wow.
And what happens when you put yourself out there and you shut off the radio and you shut off the cell phone and you go quiet is suddenly you're living in magic la la land, because things happen, people appear, situations occur. It's almost like you can see the stars align, and they were probably aligning beforehand, but you couldn't tell. And your book does an excellent job at, I think, preparing people for this.
Thank you. I really wrote it with the intention of, I wanted to share, the book is part memoir. I wanted to share this extraordinary experience. On the other hand, I also wanted it to be the book I would have loved to have had at the time of my life that I was going through this.
Yeah.
Because I think I would have felt much less fear and much more reassured. And I call it my odyssey. When you think about an odyssey in a traditional storytelling sense, there's adventure, but there's like life and death adventure. And I call it my odyssey because it felt that way. There were experiences within my journey that felt very life and death, or felt very much like do or die. Not that I felt my life was threatened, but I felt like this is my chance, this is my chance. And I think if I would have had the book, I could have perhaps relaxed more into it and not felt so extreme within the experience, Well,
fortunately, and I've got goosebumps on my neck. Well, fortunately, you didn't have the book so that you could write the book for others.
Right.
So, where can people find out more, and where can they find your book?
Sure. Well, you can find the book on Amazon, iTunes. It's sold in Barnes & Noble, so you can check it out online or in your local Barnes & Noble store. It's sold at dozens of independent bookstores around the country. So there are lots of places to get it.
Fantastic. And we'll have a link on our website to it as well.
Thank you so much. And I really, as I was writing the book, another thing that I created at the same time was the mysticalbackpacker.com. I created an online forum and community where mystical backpackers could have access to additional resources, including things like, in the book, there are 4 different exercises that I thought might be a little challenging to do by yourself if you've never had this type of experience before. So I created guided meditations to help get you into the zone to do that exercise. So that's, for an example, some of the resources people can find there. So that's the mysticalbackpacker.com.
Beautiful.
We do soul coaching and public speaking, and do workshops and seminars. So if you're interested in working with me in that capacity, please just visit hannahpapp.com.
Woohoo!
Yay!
So I have one last question, and then we will wrap this segment up, and then we'll record a short meditation for people. We'll air that at a later time.
Okay.
Really fun question. We like to ask everybody at the end of the show, which is, what brings you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
Hopefully you can edit out all this silence.
No, this is real. This is live. You know, if you had an answer in just a second, then you're not going deep.
I'm not going I am trying to go deep. I think it's very hard to articulate this without sounding selfish, because I think in our society, this kind of statement sounds selfish. Mm-hmm. Because of course, the people in my life give me ultimate joy, and there are many experiences that I've had that have been ultimately joyful. But what is really amazing is when you do something for yourself that uplifts your soul so much that it's like you're moving in the current of this energy of contentment. That's amazing. And so that's realized at different times in your life in different ways. I felt that way writing the book. I also feel that way swimming in a lake. You know, so I think when you are truly living your life fully, it is the adventure of discovering all the ways in which you can move within that current of life experience. That's the adventure of living on the earth plane, living here, this very real rock in the sky floating near a sun.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. In other words, to summarize, do something that nourishes your soul.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you so much. We'll do a guided meditation here in a minute. For everybody, you'll catch that at a later time. It has been a true honor and a pleasure. I know I want to go out on another mystical journey myself. I can see it coming very clearly. I will afford that opportunity, even if I'm not ready to afford that opportunity. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, go on mystical backpacking adventures, and shine bright. Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you so
much. Thank you. Thank you. It's my honor and privilege to be here. Thank you.
Woohoo! Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!